Thank you for tuning into another video from JRM Recaps. Spoilers ahead. The film opens with the driver, who lives in a condo in Echo Park, Los Angeles, has no name and no indications of any actual personal life. He scarcely talks and seldom shows any genuine feelings. The driver works fixing vehicles and is a Hollywood stunt driver by day and a getaway driver for criminals in the evening time. The vehicles the driver utilizes are given by his boss and mentor Shannon, who is a disabled, washed-up body shop owner. On criminal missions, all he does is the driving. He doesn't design any of the heist plans, and he doesn't carry a weapon with him. He gives his clients a strict 5-minute window to pull off their heist and return back to the vehicle. On the off chance that they complete their job correctly and are out in 5 minutes, the driver ensures a successful and safe getaway. The driver lives in a condo which is barely decorated in a modest condo complex. He lives a few doors down from a pretty young lady named Irene and her 6-year-old son, Benicio. One day the driver helps Irene's when her vehicle stops working and she welcomes him back home. Over a glass of water, she informs him that her significant other, Standard, is in jail and she is raising their child all by herself. Meanwhile, Shannon would like to borrow $300,000 from Bernie Rose, a film producer, loan shark, and local gangster, to finance a race car that he believes the driver should race. After a test at a nearby racetrack, Bernie is intrigued with the driver's abilities and consents to the idea. Bernie's partner Nino, a heavy-built, cruel thug, is less impressed. The driver begins to spend a good amount of time with Irene and Benicio. He fosters a real bond with Benicio, and the attraction and chemistry between Irene and him forms into an unsaid romance. Out of nowhere, Irene gets a call from her significant other's lawyer that he is being let out of jail in a week. Standard returns home and is seen to be a decent person who is remorseful over the activities that put him in prison. Irene and the driver attempt to accept the terms with the conclusion of their short-lived relationship. Standard finds Irene conversing with the driver and observes something is up. However, rather than feeling intimidated, he welcomes the driver. One day the driver finds Standard beaten severely in the complex's parking garage. The assailants were from Standard's former employer, Cook, who now wants him to execute robbing a pawn shop in the middle of the day, which will be payback for providing him safety while in jail. The driver offers to assist when he hears that Irene and Benicio might be in harm's way if Standard doesn't comply. Cook lets them know that the pawn shop is supposed to have around $40,000 in cash. Standard has been informed that he is a free man in the event that the job is completed as planned. Going on the job with the driver and Standard is Cook's associate, Blanche. While the driver holds up in the parking lot, he sees another vehicle pull up to a parking spot not too far away from them. Before long, Blanche gets back with a large bag and the two sit tight for Standard. Out of nowhere, Standard exits the shop and is suddenly shot to death by the owner of the pawn shop. The driver quickly drives out of the parking lot and is immediately chased by the other car, which nearly kills them. The driver executes some extremely skilled driving and figures out how to get away from the pursuers. Afterward, they find a motel to hide out in, and the driver discovers that the stolen cash is closer to $1 million. The driver and Blanche watch a news report about the burglary at the pawn shop, which makes reference that the owner didn't claim anything was stolen. The driver is skeptical and forces Blanche to tell him whether they were set up and by whom. She concedes that she was in on it with Cook, whose genuine name is Chris. While Blanche is in the washroom, her phone goes off. The driver sees that Blanche has told Chris their location, who has sent hired gunmen to kill him. One of the assassins kills Blanche, and the driver figures out how to kill the two gunmen and escape. The driver goes to a local strip club looking for Chris. Utilizing a hammer to smash his hand, the driver makes Chris admit that Nino set up the heist and he wanted both Standard and the driver dead. The cash belongs to the East Coast mob, and Nino realizes that the mob will come after him assuming they figured out who stole their cash. So he tells Bernie that Shannon, Irene, Benicio, and the driver are the only connections back to him and must be killed. Bernie hesitantly consents to this plan, and in return, viciously kills Chris for messing up the original mission of killing the driver. The driver offers Irene the cash so she can move away from the city with Benicio, but she slaps him across the face since his offer offends her. As they are conversing, Nino's contract killer shows up in the condo complex's elevator. They get into the elevator and the driver recognizes that the man is here to kill them. The driver moves Irene to the corner and gives her a very passionate kiss prior to stomping his head in and killing him. Irene is horrified to see this side of the driver. Meanwhile, Shannon was cautioned by the driver to leave town. However, before he can, Bernie appears at his car shop and kills him. The driver finds his companion's dead body sitting in a pool of his own blood. The driver goes out after Nino and Bernie to retaliate for the killing of his companion. Wearing a rubber mask from one of the films he had performed stunts in, the driver appears at Nino's pizza place and waits until he enters his vehicle. He follows the vehicle and rear-ends it, causing it to spin out of control until it comes to rest on the edge of a cliff. He then proceeds to slam into the car, sending it tumbling over the cliff onto a deserted beach. Nino is somehow still alive and manages to crawl out of the vehicle away from the driver towards the ocean. The driver catches up with him and suffocates him in the water. He then, at that point, calls Bernie to let him know that Nino is dead. Realizing the driver just cares about the security of Irene and Benicio, Bernie recommends they meet at a cafe where the driver can hand over the cash in return for Irene and Benicio's guaranteed safety. Bernie tells him plainly that the driver won't live long due to all his transgressions. The driver agrees to the terms even with his life at serious risk. The driver gives Irene a final call to tell her how much he loves spending time with her and Benicio and that they won't ever see him again. The driver and Bernie meet at the cafe. They continue to the parking lot where the driver has the cash stowed away in the trunk of his car. As he hands it over, Bernie pulls out a knife and stabs the driver in the stomach, but the driver pulls his own knife and is able to stab Bernie in the neck. The driver manages to get in his vehicle and drives away, leaving Bernie's dead body alongside the open bag of money. There is a shot of Irene knocking on the driver's condo door, hoping he is there, but he is not. The last shot is of the driver badly bleeding, cruising through the city roads in the evening time while listening to music. Thank you for watching our recap. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for future videos. Also, try some of our other videos displayed on screen.